Nigeria's legal system is as mandatory to the administration of justice as it is old, whether in the pre-colonial era or the post-colonial era from independence. The sum of its parts is incomplete without the mention of certain legal luminaries with indelible contributions to the sector, such as Aare Babalola, whose 60-year milestone spanning the various administrations and his foray in tertiary education did not go unheralded in Nigeria. That's our focus on Special Report. And the occasion to recognize his 60-year long contribution to the system is attended by former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, Governor of Ekiti State Abiodun Abayomi, and other distinguished personalities, as well as the Ooni of Ife and other leaders of the traditional stool. His philanthropy, altruistic nature, and giving spirit, chaired by a former Minister of Justice, Chief Akin Olujimi, who regales the gathering with relevant recollections.
One thing about him is that he works hard and he likes you to also work hard. One of the quotes here that they paraded a while ago, there is one that I keep remembering every day, and that is, he prays most who works hardest. That's his philosophy of life. And we have all imbibed it. And that is helping us today. Now look at behind me here. We are just a few of those who are lucky, you see, to pass through the chambers. Many are still there. Those of us who are out are benefiting today by the great name he has made and the learning we all got under him. One thing that we all here would testify to is Papa's power of cross-examination. If you have ever watched Papa in court during a trial, you will love law. Whatever edifice of lies you have built up, Papa will crush it. Papa will crush it. And I have not seen any other lawyer in this country, past and present, who has been blessed with that power of cross-examination.
Constitutional reform is given a spotlight as the critique of the 1999 Constitution remains poignant because of its origin in military times and other concerns. Bishop Matthew Cooker delivers an address.
I've often said, rather jokingly, but I think it's important for our records, that we are perhaps one country that cannot speak about how many presidents we have had. We don't use generic terms. If we say, how many presidents have we had in Nigeria? We can say President Obasanjo came twice, one as head of state, one as president. Buhari came 2 times, one as head of state, one as president. Then we have head of interim government. Then we've had all kinds of. So Nigeria's constitutional history is so fractured. We've had a series of constitutions, beginning with the initiative of the British colonialists, right through to the processes that all of us are very familiar with. In my little experience, and thanks to President Obasanjo, who appointed me as Secretary of the Political Reform Conference, I've had a little bit of closeness in looking at the issues and the debate. One of the most frustrating things for me in looking at the history of Nigeria's struggle with constitutionalism is the process itself of making a constitution. And if you compare it, and the paper tries to look at that, but I probably won't go into it. is that unlike the making of the American Constitution, about which I spent a little bit of time in the paper, because the Americans, when they were making their Constitution, at least had sources of inspiration, whether it was the Declaration of Independence in 1776, or the American Constitution itself, which came into being in 1787, or the Emancipation Proclamation, in which Abraham Lincoln made the defining statement: we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are the rights to liberty and the pursuit of happiness. That means that essentially, the Americans, in making their Constitution, allowed for the fact that there has to be enough space for every individual to pursue, as a matter of right, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I make the point because if you compare it with the Nigerian situation, where coming to participate in making of the Constitution is always at the discretion of the person who is the president, and he uses other sources of information. But I found that the struggle to represent traditional rulers, to represent the church, to represent all kinds of aggregate groups, ends up with a lot of people with very little understanding of what constitution making is. And what became very clear to me, that most of the people who showed up saw the place as a theater for politicking and political transaction. So you can run through the Nigerian situation, but long story short, it is that first of all, there are no perfect constitutions anywhere in the world. And that in the final analysis, a constitution may be like the finest car that you can have, or the finest aeroplane. It depends on whose hands it is in. I stumbled on a poem, a very beautiful poem, which said that a racket is a racket, just for playing tennis. But it's not an ordinary thing for playing tennis if it is in the hands of Djokovic, or if it is in the hands of Serena Williams or Venus Williams. A football is an ordinary football, but in the feet of Messi, it's a completely different tool altogether. So the point is that a constitution ought to be able to meet certain objectives and ideals. But in the final analysis, it is not so much the quality of the constitution, it is the quality of the men and women who have to operate the constitution.
Aare Babalola, who founded the Aare Babalola University Ado-Ekiti, Abuad, as one of the feathers to his cap, takes to the podium with flair and aplomb. The cynosure of all eyes, as a non-Nigerian speaks in all spectrums.
It is true that people who make government are the people who run the government. But it's also true that you cannot have a constitution which can be run by even an angel when that constitution is for a country of nations. Nigeria is not one country. It's a country of more than 300 nations and tribes. You need a new constitution which will allow each part to develop at its own rate. And at the same time, a nation will now evolve from that constitution. If a Niger comes to this country today, he cannot run this country well because of the constitution we have, which allows certain nations to rule the country. It's not possible. So my own suggestion is that we need a new constitution immediately, and that constitution must be similar to the one which the leaders, in their own wisdom, after 10 years of deliberation in London, agreed to, which was a true federal constitution with regional bias. When Western region had its own embassy in London, its own constitution, Eastern region had its own constitution. There's embassy in London. The same thing in North. We were developing well. Western region was doing very well. That But for the military intervention, we were caught up with England today. As I said, we do not need a constitutional order, but a new constitution. And finally, I want to speak about my own profession, the judiciary. Our judiciary today needs a total overhaul. And you cannot do it without a new constitution. I have about 3 cases myself filed in respect of matters arising from the university. Do you know, for the past 4 years, these cases have been on. We have some judges here. The High Court has not been able to sit for many months. Why? Because they are handling what they call election petitions. Election petitions should not be handled by sitting judges. They should be decided only by committees set up consisting of senior advocates and retired judges. In that case, the regular court will not close down. That's my first observation. The second observation, of course, is remuneration of judges. No senior advocate who is worth its salt, who is making money the way I did, who want to go and apply to become a judge. For what? What the judges in Nigeria earn, Spartans compared with others and overseas. There is urgent need under the new constitution to improve their salaries of judges.
For former President of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, it's a special occasion indeed.
I have come to know and learn a lot from Aare Babalola. He's a man you must never take for granted. If you do, you are on your own. That I will say to you. He's a serious-minded man. And if you don't know that, you don't know anything. If he's laughing with you, and it's humorous, a little bit. But when you hit him on the wrong side, you will see the other side of his eyes, as I saw this morning, because I came late. And immediately said to me, "Where have you been?" I said, "Aare, I was in a little bit early, but Aare called, Bishop called. Which one will you answer? If you don't answer the bishop, he may report you to God. If you refuse to answer Aare, then you are on your own. 60 years is no joke. And Aare Babalola, I join everybody, members of your family, friends, and colleagues, and well-wishers to congratulate you on this very important mileage in your career and in your life. Those who have worked with you, whether as colleague, as client, and in what other areas we have worked with you, we know your worth. And for me, Aare, I could not have had a lawyer to handle my intricate cases as you handle them for me. On this occasion, again, I thank you for a job well done. When after elections and elections, I have to be taken to court to prove that the decision of the electoral umpire was a fair and right decision.
While foremost Nigerian lawyer and human rights activist Femi Falana speaks on curbing corruption.
The level of corruption in Nigeria has assumed a very dangerous dimension. We have a situation where highly placed public officers steal money meant for building hospitals, and people are dying on our roads. They steal money meant for ecology, to fight erosion, to deforest certain part of the country. So when a country gets to that stage, corruption is now a crime against humanity. And for the new government, the president must show leadership. Happily, the wife of the president said recently in Lagos, my family will have no problem with your money because we have made enough money. Therefore, I'm urging the president to lead an anti-corruption crusade so that this country, the largest concentration of black people on earth, can take its rightful place in the Committee of Nations. Right now, we're in trouble as a people. There is somebody here who was our president. If you were accused of corruption and your case was before the EFCC or the ICPC, you will not be appointed to a position of authority. We must go back to that era. Some of those who are going in and out of the villa are standing trial for looting the treasury of this country. So wrong signals must not be sent to our people and the international community.
The Oni of Ife expressing his solidarity in a rendition and makes a speech.
You are worthy to be celebrated every day. For me, I celebrate you every day on the throne of Oduduwa. And I mean it. Everybody will come here and say a whole lot of things about you. But you have lived a very fulfilled life. And you are an example to each and every one of us, young and old. What have we used our life to do? How well have we contributed to our society? Not on this scale, in our own little way. Look at how selfless a man is. It is very obvious. You will come to this world. At some point you will leave. But some people, we don't even want them to leave this world. Baba, as far as I'm concerned, I want to have you forever. If you love this great icon, say Aare affair. If you love this great icon, say Aare affair. If you love this great icon and you really want to show it, if you love this great icon, say Aare affair. Lord bless all the works of your hand.
His children step into the frame, giving a warm tribute to their father.
Today is a great day. We're celebrating my dad's 60 years of being called to the bar in England and Wales. And truly, my daddy has achieved a lot. He's the doyen of the legal profession, having made at least 15 people senior advocates of Nigeria. He's done very well. And now he's done so much in terms of his philanthropic strides. But for us children, we're 9 in total. Daddy has been there for us. He cares for all his children, but he believes in education. And that's what he believes he owes each and every one of us. And he did everything he could to ensure that we all had the best education, because he believes that's the foundation that he needs. But he taught us to be independent and not to depend on him. Daddy, more than anything, is a loving father. He's generous to a fault. He believes that there's nothing you cannot achieve with hard work. So for the children, for those who have done well, kudos to us. And at times it's perceived as if he's not very close to some because they have not done well. But because Daddy believes that if he could, achieve so much with hard work, there's nobody else that cannot do so if we all set our minds. So success is key. He's an emotional person. He's actually a fashionista. I mean, you can see at old age, he still loves, dressing up very well. Daddy loves singing, and that's a social aspect we don't see. But one thing about him is he doesn't attend any social functions. All his time, he puts to just working. He's got a set time. It's like a clock. So there's a time to wake up. He wakes up before 7, and by 8 o'clock he's at work. He goes to lunch at 3. He always has a siesta, and then goes back to work at 8. And that's when he actually applies all his mind to his legal work and doesn't sleep till midnight.
Firstly, I'm a graduate of his university, so I finished about 6-7 years ago. Just because I studied in this university, when I applied for my first job after my NYC, and they said, what school did you go to? And I said, Aare Babalola University. The interview changed. The conversation moved from what are my skill sets to them asking questions about my interactions with the founder and things like that. And they said, okay, we've heard from you, we'll get back to you. And I got a job. And I'm sure, and when I resumed, the managing partner said, that Aare and myself are good friends. And I'm sure that since you're a product of his university, you will have all the required technical competence and skill set and even the character required to work here. It was so great of a time that when I was leaving the firm, they didn't want to leave. They were trying to amend the packages and say, you stay back here after you leave. Now, in addition to that, when I started my own firm, and I walk into rooms and meet people and try and solicit or win briefs for the firm, and then they ask me, why should we give you, our work? You're still young at the bar and things like that. And they say, okay, what did you even finish from? And I say, Aare Babalola University. They say, oh, really? You're Baba's son? Oh, okay. And then even recently, I just landed a very interesting transaction in the oil and gas industry. And the MD of the company said, I believe that because you are a product of Abuad, you have, the kind of brain that Baba has. Those were the MD's words. And because of that, I would trust you with this work. We did the first work for him, and then he granted us a retainer with the firm. So everywhere I go, once I mention that I'm a product of Baba, they just want to hear what I have to say. Then in addition to that, even personally with Baba, whenever, he called me and said, look, Bobolaji, I want you to come down here, that I'm turning 60 at the bar, and I want you to come down here and share your story. Because Baba even knows that I'm one of his products that is shining all around the world. I've won so many awards. Recently, I was nominated for the Future Awards Africa. My firm won Business Day Awards for fastest growing company in Nigeria. And all this is because I'm a product of Aare Babalola. He's a great man. I wish him the very best. And then I hope that by the time I turn 60 at the bar, people can come around and celebrate me. And I also have products like myself, people like me to be my own products by the time I'm 60 years at the bar. So well done, Baba Aare Babalola. I wish you the very best.
Success is measured more by impact than length of years. But when those two parameters come together, it's even more a testament to the fortitude of pioneers such as Aare Babalola and men of that ilk, who helped bring Nigeria closer to its goal of global excellence in the Committee of Nations. For Special Report, I'm Olumide Macaulay.